Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Let's Talk Broncos. I'm sitting here with my good pal, Zach Seegers. Obviously, Bree Maestas wasn't able to make it tonight. We'll let you guys know where you can find her tonight as well. But, Zach, how are you doing today, man? I'm excited for this episode.
Me too. I'm thrilled to be here, talking some Broncos with you, talking about who we want to see added to the Broncos. It's fun. It's like a bit of a Madden deal. I don't know about you, but whenever I played Madden, I would so frequently like not even just play the game and like sim to the off season and
Dude,
like just team build. You know how it is.
bro, in 2K, that's all I do. I'll rebuild a whole team, get it going. We're simming, and then I'll play in like year 3 after I get my rookies developed, my young guys. We're selling early. I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from. So yeah, Zach alluded to it. We are playing a game today of Broncos matchmaker. Right, we're gonna get some free agents that we'd like to see with the Broncos, some good fits, and then we're gonna do the same thing with the draft. It's later now. The Broncos are kind of in cap hell. They are. It's going to be hard for them to get any huge signings. Maybe one more up their sleeve. Maybe mostly draft picks, I think, is the way they're going to get more players on this team. But, Zach, can you explain the game for everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty basic. Joey and I sort of get straightened up here. Joey and I are going to be going back and forth, pitching different players we want to see the Denver Broncos add over the remainder of this offseason. And they have to be realistic. So we're not going to be saying like Bijan Robinson, although that would be a lot of fun. We're not going to be.
I would love Will Anderson on this team. Me personally.
We wouldn't be saying like Odell Beckham because they do not have Odell Beckham money. And I know he's signed now, but they didn't even have that money in the budget. So we won't be talking about those guys. We're just going to be looking at some likely matches, starting with free agents. Joey, do you want to take the first one, or do you want me to start here?
Ooh, okay. So we're going to start off with free agents, right? That's what you just said?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to kind of do a dual one here. I'm going to go with the Broncos are reuniting with a player, Zach. That's what I'm going to do. 2 players that I possibly would like to see this with. And the graphic on the screen says it right there. Today I tweeted about the Broncos defensive line. That interior defensive line scares me. It really is a little scary, Zach. It's not the best. It's the front 3 look okay. I like Purcell. I like Zach Allen. I like DJ Jones. I like all 3 of them a good bit. Behind that, though, we're talking Matt Henningsen, Awazarike, and then Jonathan Harris. It's just not a very deep group. I'm worried about it. And for those that aren't aware, you're going to be rotating those guys in the middle. Those 3 guys aren't playing all the defensive snaps. You want a corral of different interior defensive linemen and edge players up front. It's physical. You want fresh legs in there. So, yeah, I'm a little worried about just the youth in that room behind the starters, Awazarike and Henningsen in particular. It's just scary. So I wouldn't mind the Broncos going out. Shelby Harris is yet to sign. The players that have still on the free agent market are not getting the money that they wanted, right? That's pretty much what that means at this point. His market's probably a lot lower than if he were to sign on day 3 or whatever of free agency. It's been a while now. So maybe the Broncos can bring Shelby Harris in on, a cheaper deal. They get some depth in there, some veteran presence, a guy that can be reliable and rotate in for these other players. Zach, what would you feel about Shelby Harris coming back to the Broncos? And then I'll lay out my next one after this.
I think you were dead on. They need more help up front. Like right now, they are putting so much faith on Awazarike and Matt Henningsen. And I like both those players, but personally, I didn't see enough for them last year to throw them into pretty much not quite a starting role, but a heavy rotational role. And I think that's the thing people forget about defensive line. It's not like in Madden where you just have starters and like backups. There's a lot of rotating up front on the defensive line and keeping guys fresh. It's not just you can't have it just be like the DJ Jones and Zach Allen show. That's not good enough. Like the Eagles were one of the best trench teams in the league. Look how many dudes they have. It's like they have 4 really talented edge defenders. They have several, I don't even know how many, 5 it feels maybe, really good interior defensive linemen. Think about like that 2015 Broncos team, or like when the Broncos were really good at the start of this season. They had waves of guys up front, both at edge and on the interior defensive line. Right now, they don't have that. They're an injury away from like really being in a shaky position. And as we saw last year, like that can topple very, very quickly. So yeah, I think they absolutely need to add a guy. I think Shelby Harris showed he still had some stuff left in the tank for the Seahawks last year. My only problem with him ever was his big contract. He's not on that anymore. Here I'm trying to find what all the interior defensive linemen have signed for so far in free agency to get an idea of his market here. But
yeah, even though then Zach, at this point, teams are running out of cash. These players are going to have to sign for a little bit. Those teams that still have cash, if they were willing to throw him a big contract, they would have done it earlier if they loved him. So the market's just not there is the issue. I expect him to sign for less than what the market would indicate at the moment just because of the timing of the situation.
I think that's a great point. And you look at the market, and it is pretty bare. Nunez Roches, who was a really good defensive tackle for Tampa Bay, signed for about $4 million. I'd say that's probably about the number. You've got Kalen Saunders in that like $4 million range, Jerry Tillery at $3.4 million, Andrew Billings at like 2.7, somewhere in that 3 to 4 million range, I think is probably what Shelby Harris ends up signing for. And that's well within the Broncos budget. That's a position they have to shore up. I like the pick.
All right. Well, I have one more player that I would like to see reunite with the Broncos, and this one's even a shorter time. It was literally just last season. Ronald Darby's still available. Ronald Darby's a really good football player when he's out there, and like I mentioned with Shelby Harris, the market just doesn't seem to be in play here. Just he would have signed if teams really wanted Ronald Darby. He would have been somewhere by now. Some team was offering him some big fat contract that the Broncos couldn't match. He would be gone right now. So I guess it depends on how down his market is. But if you could get him on a cheap deal, bring Ronald Darby back. Bring him back. He's plenty capable when he's on the field. And this Broncos cornerback room needs depth really, really bad. Like Bassey is your backup on the nickel right now. Damari Mathis, who, he came in for Darby last year. He was the depth last year, is the starter right now. And they haven't brought in anybody notable outside corner to, replace his role going into last year. So I would take Ronald Darby back if the deal was right. Zach, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I fully agree. I think – and I'm fine with even starting Mathis over him. I'll pitch my free agent here in a second, but I think they've got to add a cornerback, even if it is just as a depth guy. They are really, really shallow at cornerback right now. Everything we just said about defensive line applies to cornerback. And as we've often quoted on this show, I think Daniel Jeremiah's old saying about how when he calls around the league, everyone's saying we need more right tackles, we need more corners. The Broncos need more corners, and that's not to say Surtain's not good or Damari Mathis isn't good or anything. That's just you need more, and there's I think a good number of them out there. Ronald Darby is a good option, and he won't be that expensive. The big problem with Ronald Darby is he was set to make $10 million last year, and you couldn't be paying him $10 million at almost 30 coming off an ACL. But now, like the thing about the cornerback market really since that offseason when they signed Darby is it's flattened. Teams have realized it's not about throwing a ton of money. The superstar cornerbacks aren't really hitting the open free agent market. So that's the first thing, right? So you're not getting those superstar deals that are driving things up. And teams don't want to pay superstar money for these kind of mid-level guys like J.C. Jackson. Maybe the public thought he was a superstar. I think the league thought he was more of a mid-level guy. And that's why we've seen like Jamel Dean was the most expensive guy. He signs for $13 million. James Bradbury signs for a little under $13 million. Cam Sutton at 11. And those are the only three guys over $10 million. Like, that's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things in the NFL for a premium position, we talk about wide receiver, we talk about tackle, we talk about, the mid-level cornerback market has really, really dried up. He's probably signing something closer to, I don't know, maybe Patrick Peterson's deal, but Patrick Peterson's off off an ACL tear, or isn't rather. And like Joey just said, the market's depreciated now. So, excuse me, Peterson signed for $7 million. I think you could sign Darby for 4 or 5, and it's well worth the insurance there.
You mentioned it, Zach. The Broncos didn't want to keep him because of his salary. So at what salary would you have kept him at? If he was making, you mentioned it was $10 million. If he was making $5 million, it's hard to say that you wouldn't keep Ronald Darby, because he is really good when he's on the field. There is no doubt about it. There really isn't any doubt about it. Zach, if he was making $5 million instead of this $10 million, would you even have cut Ronald Darby?
Oh, no way. And I don't think the Broncos would have either. The only reason they did it was to free up money to go on this free agent spending spree, because it was a contract where they had no guarantees going into next season. It was an easy way to free up $10 million. There's not many singular contracts that free up $10 million and don't also leave you in a painful position in terms of like you're losing a key player. Ronald Darby's a key player, but again, the near 30-year-old cornerback coming off an ACL tear, and you had Damari Mathis step up and look like he could be a high-level starter in his own right. If you're paying Ronald Darby like a backup, hell yeah, I'd love to bring him back. The reason Patrick Surtain was targeted so much those first 4 weeks of the season was because Ronald Darby was doing such a good job on the other end. Look at Patrick Surtain's target rate the first 4 weeks of the season and the rest of the season. Dude, quarterbacks then stopped, like, we're just like, okay, we got to leave this dude alone. But for the first 4 weeks, they were like, damn, we don't have any options. So I guess I'll go to the guy who's my favorite target, who's smothered in coverage, because at least he's my favorite target, rather than my number 2 guy who's also smothered by Ronald Darby.
Right. I mean, how soon people forget, Zach. He was the Broncos cornerback tandem. I think Darby played until week 4. Those first 4 weeks was unbelievable. It was right up there with the Eagles, who had clearly the best tandem, I thought, this last year. That first 4 weeks, Darby looked like he was having a career year. He really did. It was awesome to watch those two. And then K'Wan was playing nickel. That DB group looked so good. So I want to set you up for yours, Zach. You also have a free agent you wanted to match make, or get the Broncos to sign. So who would that be for you?
And honestly, before we even talked about this, I almost went with Ronald Darby. But I thought, maybe we want a new flavor. And so I'll give the people that. Rock Ya-Sin. I loved coming out of the draft out of Temple, a very physical corner, which I think is still going to be important, but more of a man-up island corner. I don't think he's a very high-end one, but I think he's operated in schemes that are not all that different from Vance Joseph. Has spent some time under Gus Bradley in a very cover 1, cover 3 centric scheme. That's a lot of what Vance Joseph did last year in Arizona. And yeah, I'm not going to hype him up as a superstar, but he started last year for the Raiders. I think he's a quality corner, and I think you can get him for $3-4 million. Plus, here's the other thing I like about him. So the thing about the NFL, it's not, I don't want to say it's all about this, but a large part about roster building in the NFL is trying to find surplus value, because it's hard to build like a really complete, awesome team given the constraints of, the salary cap and, even if you jump through all these hoops. So it's finding, if you're the Eagles, finding a second-round quarterback who can play like an MVP candidate for you. Like, that's huge. Finding a superstar wide receiver just somehow on the open market for like a mid-round, first-round pick. Like, that's okay, sweet. Like, deal. We'll add A.J. Brown for nothing. Like those little ways of just finding surplus value. You want a player to outperform the contract you sign him to rather than not live up to it, obviously, because it creates problems. Versus like the idea of a rookie quarterback and how that's so awesome for a team is the surplus value. You have a guy playing like a $50 million asset making $6 million. So now you have 44 million lying around that you can load that roster up with. This guy's 26 years old. I don't think he's played in good defenses in the past. I don't think he's had a defensive back coach like Christian Parker yet. His best football could easily be in front of him. This is a guy where, like, Ronald Darby could also outperform his contract, but Rocky Sin is the type of free agent I love signing because I think there's a very good chance his best football's in front of him and he outperforms that contract and you end up getting surplus value. If Damari Mathis regresses as cornerbacks do, it's a high variance position. He's a young guy. I think Rocky Sin can step up and start. I also think he can be a backup who will contribute valuable snaps on special teams. I think he's an idyllic signing.
There you go, man. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. And it's interesting we both went with corners there, right? I think that's the larger picture of what we're both
and I almost went D-line. Those are big needs.
Yeah, exactly. But it just shows the larger, the need there. If you can go out there and get a depth piece that's lower, it feels like to me everybody is going into this draft where the Broncos don't have a day one pick. And they have a third-round pick as their earliest pick, where they're going to go out there and fill all these depth holes all in the draft. To me, very unrealistic. I want to throw that out there. Very, very unrealistic. You're not going to get guys to go be serviceable or usable players in year one when you only have picks starting in the third round. Not going to happen. Most of these guys are going to end up flaming out. They really are. Now, if the Broncos can go get a player that can be productive year one, like Baron Browning was a third-round pick, slam dunk all day, right? That was an awesome pick. That's great, but you can't bet on it. That's an outlier. Just because it's happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. And even more so this year, the Broncos have so much depth needs that it feels like people are like, oh, we'll fill it through the draft. We'll use our third-round pick on it. The Broncos have 2/3, not 4, not 5. You know what I mean? We have all these positions we need to fill depth with, but we only have 2 third-round picks. I just don't see where people are trying to get these players at. So
totally.
Yeah.
And look, and not to blow up your transition, because I know we'll start talking about some of those draft guys here, but look at where those third-round picks are, too. Like, they're 67 and 68. Like, they are at the top end of the third round, and I get how that could fuel some optimism. But you know who you picked at 64 overall last year? Nick Bonito. And he was – I don't think that you need to throw the towel in on Nick Bonito yet, but to Joey's point, not an instant contributor. If you drafted Nick Bonito needing instant edge production in year one, you would have been in trouble. And the Broncos drafted him knowing that. He was drafted as a project. Yes, as we talk about all of this, that's something to keep in mind.
Colton Cooper hops in the chat. He says, going to be interesting to see how the secondary looks going into this season. They were a top 4 team against the pass last year per attempt, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no, it is. And my biggest worry there is they do have good players. It just scares me that they are losing Evero. It's scary to me. I put out a tweet the other day. I thought that was their biggest loss of this offseason was losing Evero. I don't think it's particularly close. Evero is a really big part of this team. But yeah, Zach, I want to transition us into the players in the draft, and I'll pull that up right here. So we're gonna talk about the draft players. We're gonna do the same thing we did with free agents, but through the draft. And Zach, since I started this last time, I'll let you start this time. Who do you want to see the Broncos draft? Is there someone you're just in love with drafting with those top third-round picks that we were discussing earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do a couple rounds here. I'll start with my double. I'll start with the headliner here. I got him in the graphic, similar to how you started with the headliner. Zach Charbonnet is no, I take that back. I'm going to save it. I'm sorry. I'm frazzled. I'm going with the wide receivers first.
No. You already gave us the name. Stick with it.
Zach Charbonnet. I'm a big fan of him. I think just a philosophical thing, kind of like I laid out with Rocky said. I believe in just like rather than being like kind of good everywhere, I believe like create problems for people in some areas. Like, and so compound the strength you have right now in that running back room. Hypothetical strength with, we don't know what Javonte Williams will be, but get another bruiser in that backfield. You're already kind of building that mauling front to go with this vision. Samaje Perine, I know you've talked about how he's kind of a third down back, and he is, but he's a bit of a bruiser as a runner. Like he adds that grit, he adds that attitude. Get a guy who can do some of the Javonte Williams stuff while Javonte's gone, and then when Javonte gets back, now you don't have to worry about handing the ball off 30 times a game or whatever, and you can just 35 times a game. That sounds excessive, but with this Russell Wilson run-heavy offense, I think that's what we might be headed for. I think they're going to want bruising, punishing the backs that are a pain to tackle. And I think that's exactly what Zach Charbonnet is. I've loved him for a while watching him at UCLA. I'm a bit of a UCLA fan despite covering the Buffaloes. And I think he reminds me a lot of Javonte Williams, honestly, in the sense that he, yes, is a physical back who can, Joey's talked a lot about how Samaje Perine can play third down, and they need to find a guy who can do first and second. Zach Charbonnet is going to help do all that for this offense, but he can also contribute on third down. I see a guy who's a quality pass protector. I see a guy who's, again, a pain to bring down and a really dynamic runner. I don't think he's going to break away and hit any home runs, but neither really is Javonte Williams. And as we've seen, that's absolutely fine. He's still going to create plenty of explosive runs for you there. He has some injury concerns too. That's going to maybe knock him. But that might just end up benefiting the Broncos. You can get an instant impact, high-end running back, in my opinion, here on day two, in the middle of day two, because he has some of those injury concerns.
Mm-hmm. No, Zach, I really like that. I like that you specifically hit on the point that, hey, both these guys are bruisers, but it is what it is, because it really is.
That's what I want. That's what I want. Like, let's just. Yes. I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to make it annoying.
Well, also, Zach, it's just what's more important. If you're under the belief that Perine isn't this workhorse back and he's mostly, his strengths do come down in on third down, the most important thing, just go get yourself a 2-down back. Go get yourself someone who's effective running the football. Like that's the most important thing. Sure, in an ideal world, you would like to have Samaje Perine, who's maybe not the most explosive, but a punisher, and pair him with somebody that's a little more explosive. But make sure you're getting somebody that can run the football really well, right? And I think that's something Charbonnet does. He's a fantastic pick. My main worry here would just be, I don't think he's going to be there. I think Charbonnet will be off the board, and that's how talented he is. I hope he is with the Broncos. If he is there in the third round, you know what? Go dunk that home. Charbonnet would be fantastic. It would be awesome. So I would be a big fan of this one. And Zach, I'll follow you with another running back, right? I've been on record. I love Dwayne McBride. He has fumbling issues, like ridiculous fumbling issues. And then, but I will give you another fumbling issues back. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm going to regret all of this later when they're both not seeing the football.
Melvin Gordon left a hole in your heart. He's gone, and now you're trying to replace that void.
For real. I'm gonna say Zach Evans. I really like Zach Evans. I love Zach Evans. Zach Evans is a really good back. For those that don't know, Zach Evans, coming out of high school, ranked first in the running back group, above Bijan, above Gibbs, right? Talent is not the issue with this guy. If you are one of the people looking for explosiveness, Zach Evans is that guy. He's not going to juke you out. He's not going to do all that type of stuff, but his long strides are ridiculous. He's going to beat you, and he has the home run ability in his arsenal, while being that prototype running back size, Zach. So he's averaged a ton of yards in his career. I think he's a little more raw than probably the other running backs in this draft. But if you're looking for someone with high potential and who could definitely be that 2-down back, he's that guy that I feel like is going to end up shocking some people once he's in the NFL, or has the opportunity to. Maybe I'm not going to stamp Joey's, the Joey stamp of approval all over and be like, yeah, he's the guy. But he definitely has the potential to shock a lot of people and, possibly be a running back. We're all looking at like, how did you miss on Zach Evans coming out of college? I could definitely see that. What's your opinion on Zach Evans? Do you agree with me there?
Yeah, my one thing is, I don't think you ever saw the college production really live up to that recruiting buzz and maybe the talent. He was a good college running back, but again, not that. And it's not to say Bijan wasn't high. Bijan was very hyped up in high school, and Zach Evans was even more hyped up in high school. And I don't think he quite delivered on that. That's definitely a concern. The transferring around, a bit of injury history in his own right.
Did have a bit of injury history.
I don't love his contact balance, as you can maybe see with the running backs I love, Javonte Williams and Zach Charbonnet. I like my contact balance, and I think he has the ability to maybe be great there, but I don't think I've seen him display it yet. But he's a talented back. I like the swing for the fences. He's a guy who could be a difference maker at the running back. Like, let's go. He could. It's one where I always think of the Kareem Hunt pick as that pick, where like the Chiefs drafted him in the 4th round, and then it's like, oh, this guy is one of the best running backs in the NFL. If Zach Evans became that guy, I wouldn't be totally surprised.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where I am. It's high risk, high reward. You know what I mean? It could land somewhere in between for sure. He's a little bit raw, most definitely, but he has a ton of talent. But Zach, who is your next guy you want to highlight, part of the draft edition of this Broncos matchmaker? You're muted.
Sorry, I teased it a little. Zach, you're muted. Seniors. I teased it a little when I was flip-flopping on positions. Marvin Mims Jr. is my next guy. I feel pretty good about and maybe we see a trade or something in that receiver room. But as it's built right now, I feel pretty good about the Broncos receivers 1 through 5. I don't know if they have that true superstar, but like I think it's a good receiving room throughout. After you get past 5, though, you get to number 6, which is KJ Hamler. And that's a big question mark. I think he's shown all the talent in the world, but guys, we're 3 years into the KJ Hamler experiment. And I know we all want it to work. I want it to really work out too, but it might not. It's not looking great, right? He is really struggling to stay healthy. I think you look at his body, it's very small. Now, that's a problem with a lot of guys in the NFL. It's honestly a problem with the guy I'm about to hype up here in a second. But he's proven he's going to struggle to stay healthy, and it's a concern. I think they have to look elsewhere, but they need speed. I think you saw it when Hamler has been out of this offense the last 2 years. They become very stagnant. They lack a lot of explosiveness. They need that speed threat. That's why I think Marvin Mims could be. Well, I'm kind of doubling up with this selection, honestly. Joey and I agreed we do 2 draft players. I did 3 because I couldn't pick between 2 of these speed threats. Marvin Mims is the first one. Again, great speed threat. I think he's a natural catcher of the football too, which is very nice, especially in contrast to the other guy I'm going to talk about. And yeah, very explosive. I'm looking at the Beast here to help on notes on this. Dane Brugler has noted here that he's one of only 4 players in this draft class to average more than 19.5 yards per catch in his college career. That's how he plays. He is consistently downfield, wide open, all by himself, catching easy balls. Now, I think when you see him have to make contested catches, he struggles with that. Press man coverage, he struggles with that. That stuff he's going to see, that physicality, he's going to see a lot more at the NFL level. But I think that applies to like most every receiver in this class. This is a tiny, tiny, tiny receiving class. So I look at some of his flaws and I'm like, okay, 80% of the guys in this class have that, and he fits the need that the Broncos really have. So he's a guy I absolutely love. If they want to spend a little less, also coming out of that Oklahoma offense, his route running is a bit of a question mark. If they wanted to spend a little bit less, Trey Palmer would be another option. He was the fastest guy at the combine, fastest wide receiver at the combine, rather. Which, if we're talking about burners, obviously that's nice. Both these guys, Mims and him, have shown ability as a kick and punt returner. I know the Broncos signed Tremont Smith to kind of do that, but ideally they won't have to use a roster spot on a returner. Mims and Palmer could solve that problem. And again, they're not like Montreal Washington. They're not just returners. They're good offensive players. The problem with Palmer really is the drops are ridiculous. He has Brugler has so many great stats on these prospects, more drops than touchdown receptions in his collegiate career. So that's a big problem. 18 drops to 12 touchdown receptions.
18 drops. Crazy, yeah.
And it's not like you go, okay, junior, like that's 6 drops a season. No. He really struggled to break in to the rotation at LSU. And also when he played at LSU, his tape there's a lot worse because he's playing against SEC cornerbacks and they are bullying him around a little bit. He really struggles with that physicality. And then the drops there are crazy. The lion's share of those come in his final year with Nebraska. And the talent there is really exciting, but the drops are something where I think you can get better, but it's just part of your game. Like Judy had drop concerns coming out of college, and I think it's gotten better. I don't think it's as bad as like fans make it out to be, because I think that one Chargers game lingers in people's minds. But like he's always going to have some drops issues throughout his career, I think. Like he's never going to be, we've talked about it plenty on this show, he's never going to be like Mr. Contested Catch. I think Trey Palmer is always going to have, we've seen it with KJ Hamler, drops concerns coming out of college, and Palmer has those too. Both those guys, I think, though, could be really replacements.
Yeah, I like that. Especially, I'm not as on Palmer as everybody else. I am not a very big Palmer believer. I'm not. I just don't see the natural wide receiver in him. I see a lot of athleticism. Yes, I just don't see a lot of natural wide receiver in Palmer whatsoever. Marvin Mims, though, Zach, this is one I can get behind. I'm a big fan of Marvin.
He's my number one.
Yes, he to me, he is one of the more underrated wide receivers in this entire NFL draft. I truly believe that, specifically because if you need a wide receiver like him, there's not a lot in this draft. There's not, and he's pretty damn good at what he does. So I would be happy with Marvin Mims for sure. It will be telling, Zach. The Broncos do go into this draft and spend one of their first picks on wide receiver. It's telling on where they're staying with Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy. And I think even with the type of wide receiver they take, it will be telling on Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, right?
I think that'll be the most telling part.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go.
Yeah, I think that'll be the most telling part. If it's and I don't think he makes it to the third, but let's say they take Cedric Tillman at 67. Okay, I'd immediately be like, okay, where's the Courtland Sutton trade? That's getting announced in a second. If they draft like more of a pure route runner, I'm trying to think of a mid-round guy, but if it's a speed guy, then it's like, yep, KJ Hamler's the one you're looking at. If it's more of a pure route runner, I don't know. Bootie's got so much baggage with him. Who's a good Truzy? A.T. Perry's more of a contested catch guy. Let me think. Like Jaden Reed, maybe? I don't know, but he might even be more extra. Like Tyler Scott out of Cincinnati or something. It's like a good finesse route runner. Josh Dano, because they're moving Judy into more of an X rather than a slot only thing. I don't know. I'd have to like
a Z. That's why I was.
If it was like Addison, if they were somehow like, and Addison's not going to make it, but like if they're in the range for Addison and drafted Addison, it'd be like, okay, they're getting rid of Judy.
Okay. All right. It is a very interesting part there. You know, it is always interesting what type of guy, especially in that wide receiver room, because there's so many different types, right? You have your positions within wide receiver, You really do. Specifically when you study an offense and you're able to tell where they utilize certain skill sets. So yeah, I don't know. But I have one more, Zach. I have
Yes,
one
very
more.
good.
We talked about cornerback at the beginning. I'm taking us all the way back, but now we're in the draft. My man, Frankie Abbott, he's been on record talking about it. I put the clip out on the Let's Talk Broncos Twitter if you guys want to go watch it. Frankie's a big advocate for just draft the toolsy corners. Go draft the toolsy corners. Christian Parker is that good. That's why you brought him back. That's why between different coaching staffs, Christian Parker's always brought back, right? Go draft yourself a toolsy guy. You trust him to develop him. Like, that's why you keep bringing him back. So I want Julius Brents. If Julius Brents was there at 6'4", he's running, lower 4.5 40. He has a 40-inch vertical. Go draft yourself a freak. One of these physical cornerbacks. He's going to press you. He's going to get it in your face. And then you're going to match tall-ass Patrick Surtain with tall ass Julius Brents. That's the way I want it to go with K1 and it would be K1 in the slot or Damari. That it would be fantastic. I think Julius Brents would be one of my favorites. I don't care where they draft him. It could be with that first, third round pick. I'm not a big advocate for trading up. Just let the pieces fall where they are. But I would be ecstatic if Julius Brents was the pick there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that would be a dream selection. And think about the athletes they would have in that secondary then between Mathis, who I think is a 9.3 guy on RAS.
Yeah,
he's in the 93rd percentile. Surtain is what, 9.8, I want to say, maybe.
Yeah, he's so high up. He didn't do his ability scoring, but he's really high up based off the scores he did.
Just a absolute monster.
Even Stearns.
Yeah. I was just thinking the corner, but yeah, Stearns is a monster too when they get in that. Well, I guess he'll be the starting safety now, but just very, very talented. I like the idea of giving him just keep getting bodies. It's a high variance position. Don't just bank on the idea that Damari Mathis is going to get better and better with every year, because it's weird. It doesn't happen at cornerback. It's a hard position. We see there's very few guys that are really good year to year. I think Patrick Surtain will be one of them, but it's not super common. So keep adding bodies there. And again, the other part of it is when Damari Mathis was coming out, I liked him best as a nickel. I projected him as a nickel. I thought that's what the Broncos were drafting him to do. Drafting Brents, who I think really is a pure boundary guy, wouldn't blow that up. You could have Brents and you have K1 this year. Maybe as Damari transitions into that nickel role, hey, you need someone to play more dime snaps for you. Perfect. He could slot right in there, learn the ropes, get more comfortable, and then season from now, take over for K1 there in the nickel and feel good about it. And just, oh my God, you could match up with anyone from an athletic standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it would be so good seeing Christian Parker be able just to get his hands on one of these toolsy cornerbacks in the draft. And there are some good corners. I expect there to be a few good corners in the draft, or a few guys that are at least intriguing for a third round selection for Christian Parker to get his hands on and, maybe add some depth for this year in that third round. Zach, are you ready though? Do you have any more that you want to add on to this, or can I hit you with the Joey's question of the day?
I want to hear your question, but quick, I want to answer or respond. I guess it's not really a question, but respond to Paul's question. Paul's in the chat. Appreciate you. He said, Peyton. He spelled it as Sean Payton, so I'm assuming he's talking about Sean Payton. Has only drafted one wide receiver under 6'1".
That's crazy.
I think that's fascinating.
That must be Brandon Cooks.
It must be Brandon Cooks. That one shows he's willing to invest in them if he likes them. And I would also say, again, whether it's George or Sean, if the Broncos want to add a wide receiver this year, he's almost definitely going to be under 6'1". Like, this wide receiver class is shrimpy top to bottom. Like, every wide receiver, it's like, ooh, I wish they were bigger. I wish this guy was bigger. It's crazy how many guys under 180 pounds there are. Like,
exactly.
Concerning weight profiles. So I just think, like, and maybe that means they just don't go wide receiver in this draft, but I kind of have a feeling they will. And forget 6'1", it's more likely than not that wide receiver is under like 5'11". It's a very small class.
It's funny because my biggest draft crush in this class, and I totally agree with you, but my biggest draft crush in this class, Zach.
I know. I just don't think he's
taller wide receiver. I love Cedric Tillman.
I know he's not there.
Well, he's not there, but I'm putting my chips on the table. Give me hell if he's bad. Give me love if he's good. I love Cedric Tillman. People want to tell me about how he's not that fast, but all I see is him on tape winning vertical. He's a good vertical receiver. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to get my stuff off about that one real quick. I agree.
I actually agree. There's a real reason he was the #1 receiver in that Tennessee offense when both him and Hyatt were healthy. There's a real reason for it. He's that guy. All right, Joey. Well, let me get into position here. Give me your Joey's question of the day.
Okay, for sure. Zach.
I was going to hit you with the good one. I thought that was the good one, and it wasn't. But
we're going to take that one off because it's covering up your face a little bit there. I am going to hit you with a trick question one here. It just pulled off my phone. Dang, I was going to hit you with a Madden one again. Give me 1 sec to pull this up.
All right, I can try and find the Joey's question of the day graphic while you do that. We got Weinstein. We could give them some love. Yeah, we're used to this being a dead space. I don't have another option.
Okay, here we are. This is a trick question. Keep this one in mind. This one's going to be really hard.
Okay. I'm excited for it. I appreciate that.
Really hard. I'm going to give you 3 stats at the beginning, and then you're going to give me a guess.
Do I get an overall range or no?
On the second one. On the second. If you don't get it after just on your first go, I'll give you an overall. He's a 75 speed. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
75 speed. He's a 68 jump.
Okay.
And he has a 22 ball carrier vision.
.75 speed. So I'm thinking he's a decent mover. That could be like an athletic tackle, but he doesn't seem – the bad ball carrier vision makes me think he's probably a defensive player. A decent mover. Maybe that's like a linebacker. I'm going to say – oh, no. Yeah. Okay. It's
give me a guess. 3, 2.
Jonas Griffin. No, it's not Jonas Griffin.
Wrong. Okay, he's a 76 overall. And I'll give you another hint. He's 6'3".
76 overall.
And then I'll give you one more one after this, and then I'm going to tell you it.
All right. I don't get position. I don't get side of the call or anything. All right. Shoot. Okay, he can move, and he's 6'3". But he's also like he kind of can't move. He's kind of slow. Is it Garrett Bowles?
Wrong.
Garrett Bowles is higher overall.
All right, I'll give you one more. He is never injured. He has a 95 injury.
That does not help at all.
He's never injured. That helps you. He's never injured. And
the injury rating is BS.
He's never injured in real life either. And I'll give you another one. He's 201 pounds.
He's never injured in real life. That makes me think Justin Simmons, but there's no way Justin Simmons is a 76 overall.
And he's 201 pounds, this player. Keep that in mind. 75 speed. Justin Simmons does not have a 75 speed.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. But I just mean like Iron Man, that's where I automatically go. On offense, who's a guy who's just never injured?
75 speed, too.
It's not an offensive lineman at that weight. It's not a tight end at that weight. Is it a wide receiver? But all the wide receivers have been.
All right, guess. I have 5 seconds up on the clock. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Damari Mathis? I don't know. That's terrible. I hate that.
Brandon McManus.
I hate you. That's some Yeah, that makes sense. I was trying to go through all the positions and none of them made sense. That one makes sense. That's some bullshit, Joey.
Paul said it right at the last minute. He said McManus. That's 1,000% right. McManus is correct. That was the trick question one. I didn't
Yeah,
expect you to see you suffer a little bit there, Zach.
that is nonsense, Joey. All right, we gotta.
Well, anyway, Zach, where can they find your work, my man? Let's get up out of here. I want to make sure we also highlight where Bree is. So if you can do that as well.
Yep, that's what I was about to say. Everyone, please, I would love to raid Bree's broadcast tonight of Broncos Country Tonight. She is filling in for Benjamin Albright on 850 KOA alongside Broncos legend Nick Ferguson. Ferg, by the way, great guy. Seen him around CU practice, I'm around Broncos practice last year. Really fun listen as well. I know you enjoy Bree. If you're a listener of the LTB podcast, you'll enjoy Ferg as well. They have a great time together. So yeah, check out Broncos Country Tonight. That is happening tonight, 7 to 9 on 850 KOA. If you don't listen to radio, I don't listen to radio. Go to their website, 850 KOA, click on the listen live thing. Super easy to do. You can do it on your mobile device, computer, whatever. Go check it out. And text her and so she knows that LTB sent you. Say that you think Jerry Jeudy is underrated. Text into the text line and be like, man, I really think people are underrating Jerry Jeudy. Let's see if we can blow that up.
Text and say, no, never mind. Just say, text and say, go Bree or something. Yeah. And then
go
also
Bree, Jerry Jeudy's underrated.
Go Bree, Jerry Jeudy's underrated. Hashtag LTB. If we could get anybody in here to tweet that, I'll be listening. I'll shout you out.
Yeah. Text it. They'll say the text line on the thing. I don't know it, but listen to Bree and they'll hand it out to you. That's your LTB mission of the day. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Go support Bree. My own stuff is Zach_Seegers on Twitter. I've got a bunch of awesome Buffs coverage there, as do I on the Mile High Sports website. I've got weekly takeaways on the piece. I'm going to have a spring game guide coming out soon. It's sold out. There's 45,000 people in attendance. Tons more of you are going to be watching it live on ESPN. I bet you don't know a lot of these players on the CU roster. I've got a comprehensive rundown for you coming out soon. I've got a transfer tracker for the basketball team coming out tomorrow morning, I believe. Tomorrow at lunch, probably at the latest. And then I have tons of other stuff. Go over there, milehighsports.com. Joey, where can they find all of your amazing work?
Guys, I'm exclusively Let's Talk Broncos nowadays. I'm going all in. My chips are on the table. If you guys want to see more Joey Richards, Zach Seegers, Bree Maces, everything like that, you can find us at the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. More to come. More to come. We have videos coming. We have Frankie and I's podcast. Zach has some stuff up his sleeve for the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube page in the future. We have a lot coming up. If you guys want to get more of that, please go subscribe. Please go subscribe. Tell a friend. It would mean the world. If you just go subscribe, watch our videos, it would mean the world. But yeah, guys, that's where you can find me at JR Drafts on Twitter. That's all I have. But guys, until next time, go Broncos.